and ask the question. If anybody is not okay with being in this recording, it will be posted and public will be able to access it. So we have to be very careful we don't do anything goofy.
Oh, no.
Or never mind. All we have to do is know that it's coming to us, that it's going to happen. So anybody got a problem with that? No. All right.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, we are rolling, so that's part of for then forever. So we're talking about marketing today, and we started out, and I just touched real quick on, obviously, a good thing to have when you're very serious about marketing is a really good email list, an address list, something that you can send out lots of stuff very fast. And so that goes without saying. What I'd like to hear, though, is really I kind of gathered some things together, and I'm going to touch them real fast, and then I want to switch over because maybe some other folks will get it. These are things you guys know. I want to do a disclaimer here also. The marketing opinions that you're going to hear from me are mine. All right, just my opinions. There are people who do really, really good jobs of marketing who would disagree, and that's okay. Probably the truth is all sets of opinions probably work well in certain situations. Depends on what the situation is, what you've got, what you're trying to do. Kind of like when we were talking about funding, depends on what your tools are that are available. It's about using what's in front of you, taking the lemons and making lemonade, that kind of thing. Marketing is the same thing. However, today when I talk to you, when it's my turn to talk, I'll be talking to you from a historical perspective, and I've seen just about it all. I've seen it all on the marketing side of things at one time or another. I've seen it before the web. I've seen it after the web. I've seen it with social media. I'm seeing it now with really the proliferation of Zoom and those kinds of things. And one of the things you need to know about, I'm a techie. I love tech stuff. I had the first portable computer that came out that Apple made. It was huge. It was this big, wide, that deep, same deep, and that tall. It was portable only because you could stick it in a box about that big with a handle on it and carry it around with you. That kind of. It was not color. Do any of y'all remember this? On the screen, there were no pictures. It was all code, and printed stuff. When you played games, it asked you, a big monster comes into the room. What do you do? A, B, or C? And you go, A. Monster ate your head. That kind of thing. And actually, you got into it. What I'm bringing that up is, remember, at that level of technology, it captured people in it, and it took places. And in marketing, one of the important things is to capture people. Another thing y'all don't know about me is there was a 4-year period that I only volunteered in this field. And what I did to make money was I produced and directed commercials and industrial films and documentaries in Dallas, Texas. And I shot for Chevrolet. I shot for the U.S. Army. I did a bunch of that kind of stuff. I owned and learned how to edit. Editing was a whole different deal. Now you just do it on your computer or your phone. You can edit a video. Back then, the editing bay was an entire gymnasium. The computers were just, that big. So I have been around marketing and stuff. The thing I want to get out of the way is, okay, everybody, what are y'all used to in marketing? Who wants to go first?
I can.
Go ahead, Robin.
I can kind of speak.
By the way, do y'all know Robin? Robin, introduce yourself real quick.
I'm Robin Bergeron. So I'm a little familiar with Michelle, by phone anyway. So I used to work with John at Lifeway, and the marketing that I was familiar with was boots on the ground, going to visit churches and therapy, therapists' offices, and talking to people individually. So that's what I like to do. I'm starting to learn Instagram and social media. I can't stand blogging, but I'm trying my hand at it, all these different ways of getting the word out. But yeah, I prefer the one-on-one.
Okay. Who else? Who else is doing? Hey, Sandra, what's happening?
Hello, hi guys. Sorry for being late.
It's okay. Are you okay that we're recording this and it'll be publicly accessible? Okay, good deal.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
to have you there. We're just talking about marketing. Da, 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 da. And Robin here, who you probably don't know, you may not. I don't know. Who knows who? But Robin was just saying the marketing that she is used to is visiting with therapists and counselors and preachers. Is that right? Did you say preachers or those kind of people about the program itself? Other things you guys have seen.
We have reached out directly to the high school assistant principals who are in charge of discipline. And if they have them, the chemical dependency professionals they have on site, and they're often there's teen health services in our high schools here. So reaching out to those individuals at the various high schools in the area, because they're the ones the most likely to run into kids who are having issues with substances.
All right. Who else has something? Oh, here comes somebody else. Amy. Amy. Here she comes.
Hi.
Hey, what's happening, girl?
It has been a very, very busy day today. And I'm trying
Janelle was saying that she's had a wild day and has a wild afternoon coming. Is this a together thing y'all are having a wild day, or is this individually two wilds going on?
It's probably
Both.
both.
It's both.
Good. Well, Jamie, are you okay that we're recording this and it'll be public?
Yes, sir.
Right. Good deal. We were talking about marketing, and everybody is sharing some of what they have done in marketing. And Robin talked about boots on the ground, talking to individuals like therapists, preachers, counselors, those kind of things. And James and Michelle talked about talking with and trying to create a relationship with school districts. Other ideas, other people who have done things. What else? Give me some other things.
Well, Jamie has a very good Facebook presence right now. So I think a lot of clients are coming to us or to LGL from there. So she's done, and I'm speaking for you, Jamie, I know you're listening, but she's done a lot of live Facebook interviews, like one with you, John, and several other professionals in the community, and just to kind of raise awareness of not only LGL, but what they do to complement what we do. And it has really, really grown our audience as far as LGL. And that has been kind of fun to do too, really. Yeah. So just promoting other people, but you're also promoting yourself at the same time, and you're capturing their audience as well. So it was a really great idea and a great way to grow LGL's awareness.
Where did the idea come from?
Jamie. Jamie's brilliant. That's how.
Yeah.
It was my marketing brain, and quite honestly, I was very bored at home, stuck with the corona. So if we're all being honest, it was out of boredom and just trying to figure out how we can still keep that connection with our audience, with our clients, with people that are struggling, because right now there's a lot of people struggling, and just making people aware of the fact that this is a really tough time, and that there are resources even outside of LGL to be aware of. Like, a lot of the reason why I did it was not just for LGL. It was great because we did hit a lot of audience, and people, like, we still have a lot of people coming in, but we're not a one-stop shop. And it's important for people to know as many resources as they can in the community. And as far as the APG is concerned, when I've been getting calls, I will ask them if they have like, hey, do you have kiddos? Have any kids? Because we do have a program for what you're doing for your kids too. So that's kind of how I've been segueing into getting some of the, like building up the APG before actually putting anything out there. Because I want to make sure, I learned my lesson in the past. I want to make sure that we are like on point, everything is in check, seamless, like everything is good before putting out there any marketing collateral yet.
Okay. You guys, again, I want to encourage you to kind of make notes as we move along, you know, in these things, because if you'll think all the things that just got said, a whole bunch of ideas, different approaches, different places. Something also very interesting just happened also, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. By the way, I want to mention this, that Amy and her leadership and what her team has done, the board that met last Friday all knew about it, and part of it has to do with this Facebook thing, and decided that for at the national conference this year that LGL is going to get the Cool Startup Award, the Rockin' It Startup Award, you know.
Yay!
Which is pretty cool, pretty neat, pretty neat.
We're
So
so excited.
congratulations, and get ready, because you'll have to say stuff online, and there may be a lot of people watching. There may not be, but there may be. I hear that in the virtual conference, which we're talking about marketing, all right? Let me tell you the story about the APG, ARHE, ARS National Yearly Conference. Conference this year, they couldn't, you know, next month, they couldn't do it live. And so they decided and elected to go virtual with it. Well, they were worried about it, but as they started into it, some things happened that they found they didn't expect. Number one, they didn't have to put down any money for hotels. They didn't have to put down any money for meals. They didn't have to put down any money to fly anybody out there, a speaker or anything. They weren't sure whether it was going to work out, but guess what? It did. So in their conference budget, they started over $200,000 ahead. That's because of the lack of those expenses. Then they were worried, would anybody attend? So they reduced the conference fee, and I want to encourage you all to go. Reduce the conference, you know, sign up and how much it costs to sign up for the thing. And rather than fewer, they have actually gotten more signups than they ever would have had people had to buy plane tickets, fly out there, pay for a hotel, etc. The wonderful news about all of it is, yes, economically, that's really, really good. For the first time ever in history, the association may do something besides just break even. We may actually have a part with some income, which would be nice, you know, for the association to have, and I'll go into some of that in a minute. But this new technology, keep your fingers on it. It moves things all over the place that you couldn't move before. This conversation we're having right now, I'm starting to have counseling sessions online. I mean, a lot of them, but not just here in Houston, but with people all over the country that I'm talking with, or broken families, or people in the country, and I've had that before via phone, but this is different. People are getting, the culture is getting kind of used to, wait a minute, maybe I don't have to take 3 hours out to go to a counseling session. You got an hour driving there and sitting waiting for your session, then you got the session, then you got to get home. It's a half a day to go to counseling. They're not doing that. They're having an hour. They sit down at the computer, bang, we sit, talk, and it goes on. Elaine.
Hi.
Are you okay with that? We're recording this and it's going to be public?
Oh, yeah.
All right, good. We're talking about marketing. So this tech is a very, very important thing to keep up with. Sandra, marketing, things that you've seen and done, or stuff that comes to mind.
No, I don't have any experience in that.
All right, well, you're going to have some, probably. Hey, Lane, what you got to share with us of what you've seen in marketing, what you like, what you don't like, etc. Hold on, let me unmute you. Can't get her unmuted. Okay. No. Lane, we can't hear you. I don't know.
Now can you hear me?
Now we can. There you are.
Okay.
What kind of marketing, when you say here marketing, what do you think of?
Oh, marketing, like selling what you have, like your program.
Okay.
Put it
What
out.
kind of ideas or techniques cross your mind or that you've seen that were interesting to you or you think would be workable or those kind of things?
One thing would be the school system, like talk with a counselor at a school about your program. And could you go and talk to someone at the school about it? I mean, have a performance with the kids. And
Okay. Yeah, it's somewhere where you actually talk to the kids.
right.
Anybody has anything else they want to throw in, don't hesitate to click in, all right?
I have something to say
Go
about
ahead.
that.
Go right ahead.
I think that was probably a good idea, something to reach to the kids, because, and I don't know about you, Michelle, but whenever I've talked to people from the school, they're very hesitant to give clients to us because there's no problem at the schools,
Yeah.
Yeah, so just keeping the awareness going and making sure they know what's happening in their community. It's important, networking.
Our recovery high school, I know in the past they've had kids go do a panel at the local high schools. And I think that's much more effective than adults standing up there and talking. But when they've allowed the kids to come to the school, which Seth made it sound like maybe 75% of them were pretty open. And then there were the 25% that really didn't want us there. And you're right. They're doing everything they can to keep those kids in their seats because they get money for each kid, right? Including having a chemical dependency professional who I think was a joke at my own kids' high school to try to keep the kids in school, their school.
Let's touch some specifics here, all right? Number one, what is the point of marketing? How do you know if it's working or not? What happens?
Start getting calls.
That's it. That's the bottom line. That's it. If you're not getting calls, it's not working. And whatever, I'm not saying it won't be helping something or it might be good for somebody or helpful. But the point of marketing is to get people into your program so that you can help them. So when you're trying to monitor and measure, is marketing working? If they're not coming in, what you're doing isn't working. Okay. Lifeway was taken over by another organization at a certain point, and Rachel coming, and shifted to a very, very common marketing approach. All right, they hired very expensive guys to go out and go to all of those meetings where all the marketing people go to. All right. The intakes dropped off drastically. Drastically. What they stopped doing were some of the other things that we had done historically, and they just wouldn't do it, and they had all sorts of reasons why, and everything.
Why is my camera not showing?
Go down to the bottom left of your screen. Do you see the camera down there? Take your cursor down there, and there should be a camera down there with a little red mark across it. Click on that camera. There we go. I guess, well, no. You're back. You know what I don't like about Zoom? It's when everybody has their audio off. I can't tell.
Okay, well, I'm here for some
Yeah.
technical difficulties.
Video, it's fine.
When you're there, look, Elaine's got her camera on. Yay, woo! We were applauding. All right. So what you want to do is you want to track what actually brings clients to you. We've just gone over several things. In the typical marketing, and I brought these things. Oh, look, it's the Lifeway cup. All right. Are these things good? Yeah, they are. Are they good enough? No, they're not. All right. If you can afford them, these do not bring people in the door. These will put the name in front of people and keep it in front of them, and you're going to need some of that. Here's another thing. Look at this cool thing. It's a pen, and it says Lifeway. You know, and it's a horrible pen. This one sucked. Some of them we had were awesome though. We had some of the best pens in the world. And then here's the Three Oaks Academy brochure. Here's Lifeway, you know, brochure. The threefold. Is it good to have all this? Absolutely. There's 1,000 million marketing websites out there that'll help you put this together real fast, real cheap, and tell you what needs to go into it as far as presentation, etc. So there's all of these things that are available. But if you don't get in front of the people, make the referrals, you won't get them. Period. You can send a marketer out, sit and talk to other marketers all day long, and nothing will happen. You've got to get the people in the door. And you have to identify who is making your referral. And for my experience, from my experience, the referrals always come from family. I very, very rarely get a call from family or law. You know, the law is in their face. Those two places, that kind of pressure is going on. I very rarely get a call from anybody that's not under the gun with the law or their family calls. Very, very, very rarely. I don't care how good of a tap dance I do, you know, for people in jail or people in a school or whatever, and get them laughing, tell jokes, sing music, you know, all that kind of stuff. In the end, and if they do call, all right, and this goes to the truths about why alternative peer groups work. Alternative peer group programs do not work just because, or as a bottom line, because of the other young people or similar social group that's there. It's important. That's not really what affects most success rates. What affects most success rates is the willingness of the program to accept the 18 months to 4 years to stabilize. When that starts happening, success rates start going up. During that time, though, you do have to have the family there. And why the family? Well, because when people head out the door in a relapse, who's going to turn it around? If you don't have them, who's going to turn it around? How long will it, if you go into let them hit a bottom, how long could that take if it ever worked? What are the chances of it, instead of it being program hopping and those kinds of things, that going down? So, as you know, for me and the approaches that I've seen work, targeting the audience that's going to make the referral is going to be very important. There's primary referral, the person that calls you, and then there's secondary referral, and that's the person who told them to call you and gave them your number. And the churches, teachers, aftercare coordinators at program residential centers and those kinds of things, those are your secondary. The primary referral is usually the family, you know, that calls. There are exceptions to everything I just said. I know that. I know that. I'm talking in general. We're talking marketing. We're not talking about each case, that kind of thing. So, if you have something coming to your mind, go, yeah, but you're right. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, but on that case. In general, those are the people you're aiming for. I don't think that you guys don't know that. All right. So the question next comes, one, what kind of things stand in the way of you being able to get in front of? Michelle and James, y'all talked about, they had a substance abuse professional that you weren't in exact agreement with. And when you get there, were you able to get in front of them?
No, I wasn't able to actually physically get in front of him, but
Right.
I do plan to, even though I don't agree with his harm reduction model for my daughter who needed to just stop using. I can certainly, I've got a good relationship with him.
Okay. Did you try to get in front of that professional? What kind of roadblocks did you run into? Let's talk about roadblocks, things that get in the way and how to get past them. Let's get practical with this stuff.
Right. Well, I think that roadblock is what I was talking about, where the schools are paid for each student they have. And if they lose a student, they lose money. And so our school district specifically won't expel a student for use. They're expelled for the day, like my daughter throwing up in class, got kicked out for the day and then just had to sign a piece of paper and was allowed right back in. Because they're trying so hard. They used to send them off to an inpatient or outpatient program as a requirement before they could come back. And they aren't doing that anymore. And so they're just keeping kids in the school, and it's creating an environment of addiction.
Yeah.
So that's our big roadblock, is they're trying to keep doing everything they can to keep those kids in the school despite the damage it's doing.
I'm just curious, did you call and try and make an appointment with that counselor?
I did not. I only
Okay.
had email and phone conversations with him. I did not get to sit in front of him, but I believe I could.
You could have. You think he'd let you come in and talk to him?
I do. I do think he'd let me.
Do you
come
think
talk to
that
him.
after you explained what you were going to suggest as a referral point, do you think he would have started to refer?
I think he would for an alternative peer group, because that's less threatening than a competing high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I do too. That's typically, what you'll run into. Although I've gone in with thousands and thousands of aftercare coordinators, counselors, preachers, youth ministers, sit down and talk to them about this disease and never hear from them. Anybody had that experience? Is it just me? I guess it was my bad breath. Why, let's open it up. Why do you think that happens?
I can speak to that too, because I've had it happen both ways. People that I didn't expect to ever call would call. One of them, I had a huge language barrier with the pastor. It was a Nigerian church. They sent me a family that really needed help. I had no idea that would ever happen. But on the other hand, the ones the ones that have a huge youth group, they keep it all, there's a huge stigma. And that's a lot of it, especially with churches. Like, they don't want to outsource, to other youth groups or things that aren't attached to their model of thinking.
Okay. We got stigma. At the Lifeway was hosted by the same church for over 20 years, still is. And it happened many, many, many times that I would hear about some family in the church that was having a substance abuse problem, that they took them over to another Methodist church, a program at another Methodist church, rather than that one right there, that had actually brought some international fame to that church. And there were several preachers' kids, staff and preachers' kids in that church who got and stayed sober. One of them ended up running Three Oaks Academy, in Generation Found. That guy who was in charge of the other school, not Archway, but the other one, the guy with the ukulele, he was the son of the youth minister at Methodist Church. Even after all of that, and it was real well known, it's a huge church, you would hear all the time about them going to another place. That kind of deal, and is a part of that stigma. Usually they're going someplace where other people, you know, they don't want to talk about it with people in the church, those kinds of things. Stigma is a very difficult thing to get by in marketing. There's some other things that stand in the way, though. Isn't stigma. The one you were talking about, Michelle and Jane, is the way the organization is put together is going to make it very difficult. And you put your finger right on the marketing tactic. If you go in there, you don't talk about the school. You talk about, hey, some of these people can stay. All right. And do you want them all to stay? Would it be better if they left? Yes, it would. But it's not the time right now. And to try and bang on that school, forget it. It isn't going to change anytime in the next 1,000 years. So the best you can do, you don't want to get me started on that. Education is the great albatross of let's not fix anything. And that makes sense. But when you're in there, you want to culture your approach and what you have to say to fit their needs. All right. When you have a family come in, and you're talking to family, all right, think about what you tell family. You don't tell family right up front, oh, guess what? The next 18 months to 3 years, you're going to get your guts just kicked out. It's going to be, you're going to have 6 times. I do tell them this, but I always tell them, but it'll work out, you know, and try and give them some things. But you don't go directly in the first meeting against whatever codependency processes. That if you confront real hard in the very beginning before you have a relationship or anything, you're going to lose. All right. So you have to build the relationship, and then you start to confront the issues as they arise, and in a language in a way that they can hear it. So, you know, keep those things in mind in marketing too, that when you're getting ready to go someplace, you want to put it in the language that they can hear. Let me talk to you about a group out there. All right, so isn't it odd that there are thousands of residential treatment programs? How many do y'all have in your community? Residential treatment program. How many clients, adolescent, and most of y'all are adolescent treatment. How many clients, adolescent clients a month are going into residential in the community that you serve? Average, do you think?
So, hey, John, in Washington State, actually, I had a stepson that I was raising, and in 2012, he, from my previous marriage, he was an addict, and they literally, I was like, hey, we need to get him into residential. I mean, he really needed to be there, and they were like, oh no, there's a process literally in Washington State where you have to go to outpatient treatment several times before you even get into inpatient, unless you have
Well, state funded.
State funded, yeah. And it's the amount of residential for youth. I think our closest one is like 150 miles, or wherever Yakima is.
Yeah, we have almost none. We should probably do some research to figure out how many there are.
Well, let me broaden the question. Let me broaden the question then, really, because it doesn't have to be residential. What about outpatient, intensive outpatient, you know, what do they call it? Day treatment. How many people are going into rank and file substance use disorder treatment in a month in your area? Adolescents of some kind. How many do you think?
I have no clue.
I'm sure lots.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot. I would be shocked if it's not a lot everywhere you are. Here must be, I would bet there are in Houston 400 or 500 a month going to treatment. All right. Now, you guys are representing a process of treatment that works. Guys, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be, if there was something that worked better, I would be doing it. I don't want to do stuff that doesn't work. The research is there, and it's been there now for several years. And it comes in different levels. Research, have the research in your hands when you're talking to people. If you're not referring to it and you can't say it, then you need to get up to speed. When you're doing a marketing thing, you need to be armed with this research. But you're going to walk in and you're going to say, hey, I represent the alternative peer group model. We have one right here. It is triple the success rate of the commonly used treatment. Triple. Okay? You need to be able to say it, and you need to be able to back it up. You can find the research on the association's website, back that up, by the way, and other places. The other places that you'll find things that are supportive research is called wraparound. But you need to be able to say that. Now, even if you do, you will run into a situation, you still will not get the referrals from all of them, because people who have preset ideas, this is the way they have agendas that you're going against. That's what's happening in the school situation. That's why, the agenda doesn't allow them to refer to the thing that got to school. The agenda, there are a lot of things out there, but you got to get out there. Now, boil it down though. Where and what people are more apt to hear the facts and actually move accordingly? Who are they?
Parents.
You got it. That's it. That's it. Parents. Your parents in your group are the place to move. Harder than anything else. There's some ideas I want to throw in front of you. One of them is called, hold on. There it is. We used to have things when we're really operating well and nobody's getting in the way and we have time to do it. We used to do these things we used to call them Tupperware, soberware parties. And it was about community education. We also had community education sessions, all right? Now, who got invited to those and who did the inviting to those community educations? The parents. The parents are your touch. The reason why we ended up in Memorial Drive United Methodist Church is because of parents in the program let them know we were there and they wanted us there. Parents are incredibly important. A soberware party is a parent would invite friends who weren't in the program. It's not to create referrals, it's to create information. They would invite friends of theirs who weren't in the program, and they would all come over to a house, and one of the counselors and maybe one of the steering committee members from the group would go in, sit down, and tell them how it really is out there. Not what they have cooked up in their head, how it really is. And then the counselor, if they're good, would be able to pull the research and talk about there are answers. If you know somebody who has trouble, guess what would happen almost after every one of those? We get 1 or 2 calls of somebody sitting in there, and 1 or 2 calls of somebody who knew somebody, who was sitting in there and that told them about it, that kind of thing. Those things are really good things. Community information series. The biggest obstacle to that, we used to have there were 6 nights, and we would have a parent speak, a young person speak, a counselor would speak, a lawyer would speak, a preacher would speak, and then the program director, would speak, that kind of thing. And every week we would do that. We used to have all new parents attend all 6 of those. But it was also open to the public. The beauty right now is you don't have to have a place for that to happen because you've got this machine right here, just like we're doing right now, to spread the word, to spread the truth, to spread these options. So use the tech. when I was going through these things, yeah, they have a place. Put the name out there. Pick thing, however, this pen that won't work, it's beautiful, it's useless for marketing. You know why? What do you got? I mean, I have this in my hand because, I don't know, I found it stuck somewhere. Because guess what? When it doesn't work, what do you do with it? You stick it somewhere. And all you're trying to do when you have these things is keep the name out there. So when somebody needs to refer, they've got the name in front of them. Same here. So what I found, and I wish we had done it lots and lots more, what I found to be a really, really good thing is a mouse pad that has the name of the company on it. You can get them. They're not very expensive either. And everybody likes mouse pads, and they use their mouse pad all the time. And if you turn around and you look over there and say Life Giving Life, or, you know, whatever, Lifeway or whatever, bang, that stays in your head. So when you have to make a referral, you can make it. Other things, so you got research. You want to make sure, you want to be able to say there is benefit to being able to say we're accredited. You know, this is kind of a sales pitch for getting accredited by the association. Y'all have probably never even seen one of these. There is actually a book that has the whole process, the checklist, etc. These training sessions all center around trying to get these things up and going in your program. So if you haven't pulled one down from the association, do it. Pull it down. The accreditation is not a process of checking on you to see if you're doing it right. That's not the way we do it. It wasn't designed that way. It is about exactly what we're doing right now, trying to help people, you know, get these things going. And it's nice when you're doing marketing and talking to people to be able to quote, yeah, we're accredited by X, Y, and Z. Our counselors are accredited by the, you know, NADAC, or our program is accredited by the Association of Treatment Program. You know, those accreditations can be helpful in the process. So you got to paint it, you got to present it, and you got to present it to people who can be receptive. That gets down a lot of times to relationship. I saved this. Somebody sent me this. This is something and your presentation has to be, well, I'm going to show you this. It takes about 4 minutes, right? And it's a little bit slow, but at the beginning, but I think you'll like it. And then we'll talk about real quick before we close. Let's see if I can get it going. I can actually do this. Can you see it? Everybody see it? Okay, here we go. I'm assuming y'all could hear that and everything. Is that right? You couldn't hear it?
I couldn't hear it, but
Oh no! Oh no!
I thought it was supposed to be silent.
No! 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 There's poignant music going all through that and everything. I wondered. I thought y'all could hear it. Anyway, there was this nice poignant music going all through it, all up to the beginning, and then when the thing came up, it was music. You know, light music. Now, the point I'm making here is that little video, the person who made it was the Naomi Friedman lady in the wheelchair made that was the star in that and actually organized that whole thing at her recovery home. I mean, her, you know, old folks home, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know if you saw that pictures. There were 99 was held up and 90 and 91, all these different ages and everything. The point is, at this day and time, when we're all struggling, get some of the people, either the parents or the kids in your group, do something like this. Get it online. All right, get it online, get it out there, because these things strike at the heart of folk and create those relationships. And marketing is about relationships. It's also about good feelings and having, you know, having something that is positive and full of hope. Full of hope. That film, for the oldest and the people who have the least to look forward to time-wise, was full of hope and joy. So you want your marketing stuff to be full of that, you know. I watch things online all the time, and there's one horror story after another. This ain't, you know, this happened, and there's a place for all that. I'm not saying there's not, but enthusiastic recovery means I am sober, I am going to stay alive, and I'm enjoying life. But getting it out there is a whole different deal. When you're doing marketing with a preacher, do whatever you can do so that when you walk away, he is like, that was fun. Meeting that with that guy is cool, because if that happens, it'll stay in his head. All right. The roots of alternative peer groups are in it's fun. They go way, way, way. I guarantee you, I would not have stayed if it wasn't fun. I would not. I absolutely would not. Well, in marketing, that same rule applies. I will not refer if I don't get a good feeling out of making that referral. And that means if I can have fun, that's great. Invite people. You know, these, I mentioned that soberware party, they were a hoot. Those things were a hoot. You know, you get all those parents in there and all that stuff, it's a hoot.
I have a question about that, John.
All right.
So I see our biggest referral source being the kids and the parents that are already with us. And we're already kind of running into this where how do we keep it from feeling like a cult, or we have ulterior motives, or, you know, I think, how do we keep it focused on the fact we are trying to save more lives and not have it feel weird?
Yeah, the people who get a weird feeling off of it, they're going to pick something most of the time. All right.
Okay.
Most of the time, they're going to find something.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, it's too cold. These two people are too cold. If it's, you know, it's one thing or another. This disease comes with the best way to not get sober is discredit whoever's trying to help me get sober. You know, turn my parents, all of that kind of, they cuss in the meeting. Oh no, oh no. You know, I have ninth graders telling Mom, they cuss in the meetings. You know, the ninth grader has a mouth that's so turd filled, it's ridiculous, you know, in their own private little world. There's always something. The best way, though, is you do want to be careful about how and what pressures you use to do things. You have to have some care in that. There are ethical standards, and you want to stick with those, you know. You don't want to step over it, and it's real tempting to do it. I have stepped over it at times. I'm not proud of it, but I have done it, and I've had to back up and go, no, I can't go that far into this kind of thing. So yeah, they always have to be careful. There are ethics, there's codes of ethics. They're good. You can follow them, and it'll help protect you. But it won't protect you totally, because the nature of the disease is to discredit you. So it's going
Robin, did you have something to add?
I was one of those parents who was early on like, what am I getting myself into? This sounds like a cult. It is a cult. And, you know, there's some truth to that in a way, because it is like a real small microcosm of life, but it helped. And that's what I think John hit the nail on the head, is keep it fun, keep it enthusiastic for the parents too.
Yeah.
You know, and you're going to lose people. You're going to have people talk bad about your program. I don't think that you can get away from that.
No.
You know, I've had people confront me, and then I've been to their kid's funeral, you know, and that's where stuff gets real. And so you're there for the ones that are there, and keep it fun and keep it long term. That's important.
You can tell. All right, we have a rule with, not a rule. I point out something when I'm dealing with parents who are moving towards intervention. I tell them, look, I got to tell you this. Usually, you know, when you're saying something important, because it pisses them off, get off.
Yeah.
In an intervention, if it's not upsetting them, you're probably not making any difference right now, because their rule, it's the same thing with parent, frankly. When they get pissed off, it's rubbing against something that they hold dear. They don't like something. A lot of parents these days walk in and they are thoroughly convinced that they are using themselves, but it's okay, and they've got it under control, and you should be able to handle it. You know, that kind of thing. One of the biggest issues on using harm reduction appropriately. One of those biggest issues. You can do it, but it has to be appropriate, and it's not being done appropriately in general. I will go with that, in my opinion. So there's a lot to it, you guys. Lots and lots to it. We're done. I got another meeting I got to hop over to, and I love you guys. I will post this as fast as I can. What do you want to talk about next week? You want to continue following through with some of this? Try out some things?
Is there any way we can talk about, like, hit on the ethical standards and the code of ethics? I'm going to be doing a training with the staff, and I just want to make sure that
Let's do it.
I hit on some really good, because although we want to make it fun, we also need to make sure the boundaries are in place. And like, I want to make sure that.
Absolutely. Let's hit it next week. Let's do two things. Think about, do one marketing idea. Do one thing. All right. One thing. And bring it back with you. And then we'll also we'll begin stepping over into the ethics issues. Okay. And ethics. All right.
Cool. Thanks, John.
I love you guys. Talk to you later. Have a good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.